Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing another Forgiveness to Love, Maria Unfiltered video. And this is number 30. Oh my gosh. And I was going to apologize for wearing the same outfit again. But you know what? I thought I could have actually just sat here and made 30 videos without having to change, right? Instead, I've actually put this outfit on 30 different times. I mean, it's like pretty ridiculous, I know. Anyway, the reason why is just because I wanted people that wanted to make sure that they saw all the Forgiveness to Love videos to just be able to just spot the outfit and just click on that instead of have to read the title and the subtitles and stuff like that. Anyway, so here, this is page 13 of my forgiveness list. And so the subtitles are Cash, Cars, Homes, and Vacations for the Flying Monkeys. Bad press. Some of us have been there, huh? Pest control, surveillance, and terror calls. And so anyway, I have a question for you. And it's a question that you probably don't get very much, but for me, I actually think about it all the time. And so have you ever given much thought to your soul? And I certainly have. And maybe you have too, because more and more people are questioning. And it's just an amazing opportunity to delve deep and see who we really are. And if you do think about your soul, and how often do you think about it? Because, once you have like this awareness of there being so many more things that than what we see in the visible world, because the whole invisible world is just so much more powerful and so much vaster than the physical world. And so after we realize that, do we choose to do things differently, or do we just kind of stay on the hamster wheel? Because really it's our soul that takes priority over anything else. And it's really all that matters in this life and beyond. And the rest is, when you think about it, the rest is just nonsense. And I think in the last video I said, it really borders on absurdity. And so I wanted to repeat that because it's so true. What we think is real is so unreal. And what we don't believe to be real is real. But then what is real? Really? Because reality is not real, really. That's where the word really comes from. But when we think of the absurdity of what goes on around us and how we allow people, places, and things to impact us, then we realize it really doesn't even deserve our energy. So, the subtitle was Cash, Cars, Homes, and Vacations. And so what if sibling or somebody in your family or an adversary of yours, what if they entice people to join them in kind of this spiritual battle, which is really ridiculous. But if they get others to join them, to join their kind of troop of flying monkeys, right? Another way of saying the flying monkeys are just lemmings, which is just a term used for people that just follow direction without really thinking. So it's just, it's just, I was going to say some of the books that had come out before where it talked about, kind of automatons, and they just follow orders without thinking. And so anyway, and flying monkeys are really creepos. They're henchmen used to punish the good, the kind, and the just. And so they can even be mostly friends, relatives, co-workers, neighbors, because these are the people that have access to us. And so these are the people who can monitor us, right? And take notes and harass us while setting up cameras, to roll, and even come over and ask to use our restroom. Meanwhile, they're going in there because they're replacing the battery that is low on juice. And so for the surveillance equipment, that's hidden there. And so in the bathroom, I always wonder now, okay, where is that thumbnail little camera or that pinhole little camera? Is it in the lighting there? Is it hidden in the vent ducts? You know, is it in the shower head? You know, you just never know. And so anyway, and they can be people we've never met before who come onto our property, right? Who've stalked us and watched us, even during our most intimate moments with a lover. Oh my gosh. And they know, so, I know this is a little weird, but they know more about our anatomy than we do. And they've heard every ecstatic and sensual moan and groan, which I hope you're sitting down for this, because who do you think is actually one of your flying monkeys or people that would want to survey you? And for me, I just found it a gross invasion of privacy. And moreover, when I realized that it was my own family and even my children, and I thought that was just more than a bit weird, because I'm glad I wasn't put through that abuse of having to watch my parents. I think that's totally inappropriate and highly dysfunctional, and really it's criminal. But actually, you know, and they enter our residence, you know, when we're just running to the store, and they know our daily moves and clock us in and clock us out like we're some really kind of like a pet. Almost, you know, because we don't have control of our lives, actually. And so we have to depend on them, what they're going to do, which then allows us to do, because they can, you know, drain our car battery, which means we can't go anywhere. They can tamper with our air conditioning unit, which means we swelter in the heat, which is something that I just have gone through over the last few days. And so, and yet that's happened in virtually every home I've stayed in. There, all of a sudden, the air conditioning unit would go on the blink, and then the person I was staying with would have to make a huge financial contribution, right? And so then there would be the stress of his financial issues, and then because the AC unit was either a reject or something, where you can't even read the serial number on it, and it might spew out toxic fumes, or maybe it's flammable, maybe it's combustible. So there's a warning, you know, a hazard. But anyway, so you then have these people that kind of slither around, you know, with their half-assed smile, kind of pretending that they just love and care about us, right? And they say, "Oh, Maria, you're so amazing," right? And so some of them can actually keep up this charade for a long time, a charade that actually we bought hook, line, and sinker before their mask fell off. But once that happens, they pretty much are, they're pretty well exposed. But by that time, they've already done their damage, and given their zookeeper and all the rest of the flying monkeys that have access then to our phones and our intellectual property and our journals and emails and texts and basically everything. So remember when diaries were so important, especially to little girls. And then we had these little diaries, and they had these little locks, you know, and so this way, if you took the key, you knew that it was secure. Meanwhile, I think that all the moms would just kind of take a little knife or a fork prong or something like that, and just open it and read all the stuff that their daughters were thinking and everything. But anyway, so you know, I wanted to go on a tangent for a second here about when in the last video I talked about mariahaiti.com and the videos, and how heartbreaking that was, that all of a sudden someone broke into my easy space storage and stole, you know, what I had really wanted to to pursue as a career. And so the reason I'm mentioning that too is because it was if anyone decides to delete my videos on my computer. And in fact, the reason I'm mentioning this is because I just got another computer and there's something funny about it. And so I don't believe that it is, from the factory. I believe it made a pit stop somewhere and had some surveillance put on it. And that's a creepy thing, because when you know that someone else is in control of your computer, you don't have any solid footing to stand on, really, because at any moment, all of the things that you've spent years and years doing and creating and writing and loving just can disappear because someone has decided that you don't deserve it. And so I want to just get some water. I'm parched. Excuse me. And so I guess I was thinking about that because, we spend so much time on the computer, and with all the hacking nowadays, and then so if you have other people, strangers hack, that's one thing. But when you have your own family hack and they go on your internet and they can go on to every website. I remember when my son used to visit me from London, and I had my condo on Clearwater Beach, and he'd come and he had full access to my home and everything in it, and my computer, certainly. And he was really a computer whiz. It was my fault. I sent him to like really fabulous computer camps and things like that, so he knew what he was doing. But I have a funny story about that, but I'll wait. And so he would come in and he would tie in my computer to his computer in London. And at first I said, well, why are you doing that? And he said, oh, well, Mom, because if you have a problem or something, all you have to do is just call me and I will be able to fix any issue you have with your computer. So then I was even thanking him. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I didn't realize he was taking my information and funneling it off to his father, who was, trying to take everything. So, the story I had about that was that when computers were first coming out, and this son, my oldest son, was really a computer whiz. And so my ex-husband at the time said, I'm not really comfortable with him going into our computers and stuff like that, because he can access all kinds of information that's really none of his business. So he said, I'm going to have somebody from the company that he worked for come and secure the computer in the home office. And so this guy shows up at the door, and we take him upstairs to a room. And so he fixed it. He did whatever it is he did. And then as he was leaving, we were standing in the foyer, and he was ready to leave. And he said, well, I think your computer is very safe now, and no one's going to be able to hack into it. They'll have to have the password. And so I don't think you have to worry about any of your children getting any, going on there and going on to, sites that they really have no business on or whatever. And so it was funny because we were having this conversation in the foyer, and then all of a sudden from the top of the staircase there was our son. And so he just said, I'm on. And so he was, I don't know, maybe 12 or, I don't think he was more than 12. And so this guy was just like horrified, like, oh my gosh. So, anyway, I was just telling you about that. But, there was, once we see through the fog and the illusion, then people have no place in the lives of those who are committed to doing their best and being their best, right? And so we have to be very, very cautious as to who we allow into our innermost circle, right? Because we want we want to have a standard of integrity. We can't have people that are undermining us and people that, we all think we're going in the right direction. And then all of a sudden, he's going in the left, taking taking all of the integrity and the positivity and doing some subterfuge. That's just not appropriate anyway. And so we've evolved, beyond this primitive primate species, hopefully. And so it's so FYI, or maybe it's kind of an SOS, some wild monkeys actually carry deadly diseases. They carry deadly viruses. And if you're dumb enough to have sex with one, then karma will pay you a visit, perhaps for the rest of your life. And so that was just a little add-on, just to say, know who you allow into your energy, because people nowadays have a lot of attachments, and so you just don't want that, because that can ruin you for the rest of your life, whether it's a sexually transmitted attachment, or whether it's just a dark sinister attachment. Just it behooves us to fortify ourselves with strong boundaries and stay far, far away, and we end up paying the piper. And that's it's our choice. Actually, it's free will. Free will is the blessing or the burden. The beauty of the albatross, the beauty or the albatross. Of life on planet Earth. Oops. Okay. And so, as is the choice, really, made by those who stop at nothing, to defraud us and plot our demise, for the goal is, to exterminate us. And I'll share something with you that I thought was so juvenile and so Machiavellian, actually, that it was shameful. But I was just driving a friend to an appointment, and a white van with blue writing pulled up in front of me on the highway. And there it stayed. So I couldn't miss noticing it, and it was just kind of, as I was going along, it was going along. And it was that obvious, and I just wasn't really paying attention to it. But I've mentioned in my other videos that, in fact, I felt like my family was trying to exterminate me, that I was so worthless to them, that it was like, I was like a rodent that they just wanted to get rid of so that they could go straight to the cash. And so anyway, this white truck, I looked at the writing and I was like, oh, and so it said Hughes Exterminator, or Hughes Pest Control, or and then on the back of it, it said like, go Hughes, go, or let Hughes exterminate your pests, and join the Hughes team, and blah, blah, blah. And I thought the whole thing was just, I feel sorry for people that have so little else to do in their life that they plot and plan these silly little things. So right now, I'm sure you've probably figured out that my sibling's last name is Hughes. And so anyway, that was just one dark moment of hundreds over the last few years that I just found so juvenile and narcissistic. Yet people do this kind of stuff, and then while we're just sitting there going, that was just so inappropriate, they're like laughing and stuff, going, yay, oh, we got her. And so it's that's just how some people roll. And so just remember, if you can't bring people up to your level, just make sure that you don't sink down to theirs, right? And do the right thing. And I know that I was also reminded of when I first landed in Tampa, and that first day, I ended up taking a shuttle to a hotel right around the airport. And all of a sudden the phone rang, and I looked at the phone and it said it was a call from Vietnam. And I thought, I don't know anyone from Vietnam. And so anyway, it said something like I didn't answer it, but he left a voice message. And it said something like, I'm going to tell them it's time to come and get you, or they're coming to get you, or something like that. And I had to swallow hard, and I was like, oh, That was just like such a setup, right? And someone told me that those are calls that come from jail. And so I don't know, it was just to upset me. And so again, when people are of such a vibration that they find that humorous, or they find that satisfying to torture another person, or to torment them, or to frighten them, that's, you just have to feel sorry for those kind of people, because they're just not well, right? It's from a higher perspective, you can see it and you can say, oh, it's just nonsense. And it truly is. And, it's actually, I find it to be, to show one's stupidity, really. And it's narcissistic abuse, really, that many of us have put up with for way too long. But the good news is we've finally awakened, right? And so we can't really lament on the past. All we can do is move forward and just say, oh, all those years that all of this stuff was just bombarding me, thank God I actually survived it, and I'm so much stronger as a result of it, right? And then just a couple days ago, actually, I went into Publix. I don't know if Publix they have in Florida. I don't know what other parts of the country they have, but anyway, it's like a big supermarket. And so I was in the checkout line, and they have those magazines that are on the things, I don't know if it's National Enquirer, if that's still around anymore. Anyway, there was some magazine, and so the front page story was of this guy, and then they had a picture of a woman and a child, and it said his name, and it was Alex or something, who killed his wife and child. And so all of a sudden, within seconds, my phone rang, and I thought I was still standing in line, so I decided to look at my phone and decide if I were going to answer it. But anyway, I looked at it, and it was a message, a voicemail. It was a text message, and I looked at it, and it said, "Hey, Alex." And I'm thinking, oh, do you really not have anything better to do than, tap into the public supermarket cameras or something and see where I'm looking? Or maybe you're at the other end of the door or something, and you're watching me, and you saw my eyes just turn to the left and read the headlines of the rag there. I don't know. Anyway, it just showed how silly people are. So one of the ways of dealing with life on planet Earth is really seeing everything from a higher perspective and understanding that this is kind of the level of, this is their intellectual level, their emotional level, really. And so we can either play or we can just ignore it. It's almost like a teacher, that has a classroom of little children, and they do silly things, like maybe they're throwing spitballs, or maybe they have squirt guns or something like that. Well, the teacher's not going to lower herself and start playing and throwing her spitballs. I mean, she's going to just either ignore it or explain to them that really isn't appropriate behavior. But yet she realizes that that's where they are in their level of maturity. And so when we see things, and we see such inappropriate things, we realize that this is how spiritually evolved they are, or lack thereof, actually. And so, and like monkeys, they're the flying monkeys, they're like bees to honey. And the money that they get, they're just so yay, even though that money carries a lot of karma with it. But if they can't figure it out, then they'll just experience it and think it was just bad luck or whatever. But what I realized is that it was a very costly lesson, and yet perhaps well worth it. I realized that something my ex-husband had told me when he was still alive, and when I kept saying for years I was going to leave, but somehow I think I stayed, for the children, which some of us do that. But he had said, I can buy anybody. Everybody has a price. And so I realized that people are bribed, that people can be bought, and that that fortunately, if they are so silly as to believe that that's the way to go, that's the way to live life, that really is the sure path to self-destruction, truly. And that, because that's the selling of your soul. And and then they become bound to the darkness. And then what's left? There's nothing left, right? And so at first I thought, when I had first thought of the flying monkeys being, it is, in psychology, they do describe flying monkeys. They talk about it. You know, it's from The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, and she's got all these crazy, creepy, shrieking monkeys, that whole troop of monkeys. I guess that's what you call a group of monkeys. It's a troop. And so I thought that was the dumbest thing I had ever heard. Yet the more I thought about it, I saw how pitiful they were, you know, and they were showing me just how easily human beings can be manipulated. And so for some of us, you know, who've been so trusting, and we realize that that hasn't really served us well, and that we are here on planet Earth to grow and to develop, and we are here to take the lesson. And so they were teaching us invaluable lessons. And so the more lessons we learned, actually, the easier it is to spot what we've learned, what we've been through, and how much manipulation is going on right under our little nose, right? And so we can spot it when we watch the nightly news. That kind of propagates fear and gloom and doom. And so we don't have to buy into that, truly. And so you see, everyone has a price. And when you think about it, this brings us back to our own personal lives. You know, everything becomes so much clearer, and we understand that in order to progress, we have to take back our power, and otherwise we are used as pawns. And so, you know, for a while, I used to really talk about heartbreak. I mean, my gosh, when I would read horrible articles about myself, I was truly just devastated and thoroughly demoralized and humiliated, because it was so untruthful. And so, you know, and I really, the thought of hearing about a PR firm, it just kind of, you know, gave me the creepos all over. And so then I thought about it, and I thought, you know, these people are just doing their job. And so, they're getting paid, right, to portray their client in the most positive light, and portray their client's adversary as, you know, some kind of nut, slut, crazy person, right? Unethical, liar, whatever they want to do. And they do, and when they do it well, then they have success, right? And so they can, when you think of most businesses, actually, you know, they represent clients regardless of the integrity or lack thereof of those people, right? Think about it. Every grocery store, pharmacy, or restaurant will sell to a child molester, right? They will sell to a thief. They'll sell to a rapist. And so it's all about the money. People don't know or care about the ethics or the integrity of who they're dealing with. They are paid to do their job. And PR firms are like that as well. And they're there to make money. And the more money, the better the illusion that they can create, the more money that they can gather, because their reputation then skyrockets. And so they can even portray their client as someone, you know, who's so saintly, right? That's what they do. Then they can charge more. And so the ex had gotten such great PR for years and years, and each time he was let go by a firm, there were all these articles about how his sterling reputation, you know, and is moving on to bigger and better career opportunities. And I understand how that works and why they would do that, because it's really nobody else's business if someone gets fired. unless you're going to your next employer saying that, oh, yeah, well, I left because I'm just so wonderful. And um, but I remember one journalist called me for an interview, and I declined, and I said, no, I'm not doing any interviews. And so he said he was hired by the ex's PR agent to write an article about how I had defamed the ex, and he was on the street jobless, and so he had to get $10 million from me. And so this writer said this was my chance to tell my side of the story and to tell the truth of what really happened. So I decided I had, more to lose if I didn't speak, and so I did. I told him, and we actually got along really well, but maybe he gets along with everyone. I don't know. But I sent him proof of everything, I told him. And from the moment I stepped in that courtroom, I knew I was going to lose. And so he said he understood, but the problem was that he was being paid to write whatever the ex wanted, and or they'd fire him and hire someone else. And so that was just standard operating procedure. And he wrote a little bit about what I had told him. But again, the whole point of the article was to portray the ex. Yes, because he was the client of the PR firm that hired this journalist. I said that already. And so he had a job to do, just like the journalist had a job to do, just like the PR firm had a job to do, just like everybody else out there, right? A restaurant, a pharmacy, any kind of a boutique, any type of a store, any place of business, really. And so it became obvious that that they professionally paint people, and who actually claim that that what they've taken is theirs. And in fact, that was the whole sibling and son thing, is because they went around saying that everything that they had taken was actually theirs. And so how do you get to the truth? It's really word against word. It's a person against person. And so just like criminal defense attorneys, right? And so they can represent murderers and extortionists and all kinds of criminals. And they make them sound like saints. Like an artist, they can paint a sparkly picture of their client surrounded by light and vivid colors and flowers, right? While their adversary, who may actually be in the right, is painted, in a dreary, foreboding kind of background, right? Maybe with a dark thunderstorm, or a typhoon, or the apocalypse. So do you see where I'm going? And so I wondered about my children, really, because was it the bad PR that made them hate me so? Or what could they have been told about their mother to make them never want to see me again? It was just so horrible that they refused to speak to me in 17 years. And so it's all about discernment, too, because when we can hear all kinds of commercials. I mean, that's the thing about all the ads on TV, that they make really food that is so unhealthy. They make it sound so appetizing. And so it's up to us to exercise discernment. We can't believe what people have been paid to write, or what they have been paid to write, right? Or paid to advertise, or whatever. So for me, I don't know what my children were told, because they haven't spoken to me. So I don't know if they had any idea that I was a mom who took her kids, and we were escaping someone who was a highly dangerous individual. And so I remember one of the psychologists during the divorce, I had nicknamed her in one of the books I had written, Dr. Run, because she said, Maria, grab your children and run as far and as fast as you can. And so I don't think that my children ever heard that one. you know. But and I don't think that they had heard that their father had actually, well, certainly during when I was married to him, that he was quite clear that he was actually gay. And so since the divorce, I heard that he actually did come out of the closet, but I really don't know because I haven't talked to him. And again, I heard it. He passed in, I guess I heard it was 2015 or 16, but I wouldn't know. Anyway, yeah, he had his own thing. You know, we all show up as someone else until we don't. Once we get what we want, then the mask falls off, and then the true person, the true personality comes through. And so, so for him, it was all about status, and it was all about marrying me for my father's money, for my family money, and secondly, it was how I could help him in his career. That was the big thing. And so it's money and status. And that's, I think, the same thing that sibling and son, you know, may have put at the top of their list as well. Otherwise, why do you take things that don't belong to you? And why do you defame and have this whole smear campaign about people who really haven't seen you and really have no interest? But, you know, we don't have any animosity toward them, but we realize that, you know, when you're with people who are so different from you, then, and in a negative way, and it's our perception of what is negative, but we don't really need to spend our time in that kind of lower vibration, right? And so it took me a while, but I realized that children come through us, right? And we don't own them, and they have their own lives to live, and they have their own karma to clear, and they have their own, their soul was to experience and overcome certain trials and tribulations. And it's really a matter of how they handle themselves. You know, do they rise above it and see the truth, or steep in the darkness of those around them? It really is, it's all up to them, and they have the right to make the choices, and they have needs to fulfill, right? And they have experiences to embrace, and most certainly they have their karma to clear, right? From this lifetime or another one. And so we all have we all have our own life path to travel, and some choose orphanhood, right? To reject a mother's love for no obvious reason, or at least to me. And so I felt it was almost like a cult. I felt like I left the cult. And because I left the cult, even though I certainly tried to take all four of my children with me, it was almost as if they wanted to stay and live the good life, you know, because it was a beautiful home and a beautiful neighborhood, and they were all comfy, and they had all of their needs met, and I just wanted out. I wanted my children, and I wanted out. And so when you, I know that my ex's attorney, and who then became, I guess, my son's attorney, or maybe he has another attorney at the same firm. Anyway, he's well known for representing Scientology in Clearwater. And so I always wondered if maybe the reason why my children wanted nothing to do with me was because maybe there was this whole like cult type of indoctrination. And so, you know, anyone who leaves deserves to be isolated, right? Deserves shunning. And so when you have people with that mentality, then how can you possibly have developed good relationships with anyone who has left that environment? And so we all have a choice here, right? We either evolve or we repeat the lesson. That's the bottom line. And the evolution is for all the souls involved. And so here, via my story, I give you examples and I sprinkle them throughout these videos so you can identify in your own life why some people have entered your life to deal with them, and how to protect yourself when some don't act in integrity. And how to be grateful for all of it. So although I was horrified to realize that so many friends and relatives and doctors and attorneys and companies and agencies seemed to negatively interact with me and cause me great pain, really, because they betrayed me in ways I would have never anticipated. And I realized I needed to let go of anyone and anything that didn't appreciate me. Because life is short, and we want to be validated, and we want to be loved, and we want happiness and harmony and joy. And if we can't have that with the people that we're with, then we need to extricate ourselves from that group and find a group that is on our same vibration, or at least is more closely aligned than something that would cause us great pain and strife. It was rather unbelievable to me to see how vacant and void of meaning their lives were, and how much hatred they could harbor. I mean, I just can't even imagine that. And so we just need to take the next step and just move forward, and to be, and to set boundaries, and to not allow anyone to cross those boundaries, right? Because as much as we unconditionally love, as human beings, we're not here to play doormat, right? And especially when we believe that the people that are in our lives may not be playing with the full deck, or at least from our perspective, right? And when their agenda is to hurt, harm, and destroy us, they don't respect us, right? And so clearly they don't respect themselves. So it's kind of a loop. If they don't respect themselves, they're not going to respect us. And if they don't respect us, then they don't respect themselves. So, it's kind of the same forgiveness thing too, as well. If you don't forgive yourself, you cannot possibly forgive another. And if you can't forgive another, you aren't really forgiving yourself. So, many of us have had issues in our love relationships, right? And so, if we had gotten it right, then we wouldn't have had that abuse, right? Either whether it was due to our childhood wounds, whether it was due to a past life thing, whether it's due to some trauma. And so that's why there are so many physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual instances of abuse that plague our planet, right? And so we might just be here to mirror that behavior, to those out of control people in our life that might be steeped in darkness. And so we need them to go on their way and to learn at their own pace the consequences of their behavior. And so for me, I held on tight, like white knuckle tight. And I was embroiled in kind of an endless legal loop when I could have just let go years before. And yet I just didn't get it, I guess. And so there was no more waiting for them to come to their senses. I had to come to mine. And once I did, then my life changed. And so once we can release people who con us, right? Trick us, deceive us, defraud us, defame us. What else is there? Harm us, injure us, set us up, time after time after time, right? And in my family, my sibling and son and ex, while he was alive, they wanted me gone, 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 right? And how many break-ins and accidents and injuries and poisonings and illnesses and diseases and stalkings and betrayals and setups and plots and ploys have they planned and orchestrated for years. And, you might think, oh, she's exaggerating. But truly, I tell you, I'm not. Believe me. all of those things were perpetrated against me. And in the meantime, they wanted me brain injured, broke, homeless, childless, friendless, isolated, alone, with attorneys I couldn't trust, with doctors I couldn't trust, with medical care I couldn't trust, with banking institutions I couldn't trust, with companies I couldn't trust, even with government entities I couldn't trust, and I was in a sabotage leased vehicle ready to explode with me in it. So think about this. Some of us really are here to show one another how it's done, because for many people, we can say, oh, well, that would have pushed us over the edge. And really, at times, I'm sure we've all felt that way. And whether it's my story or your story, we know that it's not a figment of our imagination. We're not delusional. And the more awake we are, the more truthful we see life. And yet we realize that actually we are, for that to happen to us, we are staying in that lower vibration. And so we need to rise above it, and we need to heal. And so that is what we need to do. And some of us really are here to see the evil ways of others and to take our power back, right? And some of us are here to help others grow and see the evil of their ways, right? And so if we hadn't seen some of this hideous behavior that I document and share with you, we wouldn't see the contrast of how they dwell in such low vibrational states, right? Relative to our higher vibing, right? And I think in one of the videos I said, oh, well, yeah, they're so low, they're like in crypts in the cellar. And so I'm sure there's something lower than that. But, if the people in our lives who have tried to destroy us, and you add the thieves and the cheaters and the murderers and the rest of the flying monkeys out there, aren't called out on their crimes to face the consequences in the physical realm of their behavior, then they might never understand the gravity of the pain that they've caused others, right? Because some only learn compassion when they experience the pain that they've caused others to experience. And I think even people who have transformed, I think that's what they really get, because they say, gosh, if I had any idea that I was causing you so much pain, I would have never done that. And so those are the transformations that we applaud and we go, yay, you got it. And so experience truly is the greatest teacher of all time. And so, there are men who have watched their fathers abuse their mothers. And in fact, one gentleman I know, he said he vowed that he would cut off his hands before he ever laid a finger on a woman, because he saw how the pain that his father had caused his mother. And so he said, but they were just mentally ill, And so that's not an excuse. We're not condoning it. We're just explaining exactly, why people do the things they do. And there are consequences to that. And we don't allow that in our life anymore, right? And there is karmic justice. So we can actually sit back sometimes and just watch these people suffer. And it's not as if we choose that for them. The universe chooses that for them. And yet karmic justice can actually be things that are seemingly totally unrelated to the emotional torment and despair they've created for others. And I remember, actually, when I was in Arizona, one of the flying monkeys was living next door to where I was staying. And he was doing some really creepy things. And if I'd even just walk into the kitchen where the large windows were, I would see him kind of hiding by the bushes. And he was a grown man. He was actually even, I guess he was retired, but I mean, he looked really young, and he had really young grandchildren and a wife and everything. And he had had a successful career. And so he was doing some really weird things. And he started to talk to the person I was living with and started to defame me. And I thought, I don't even know this guy. What does he know about me? But he was a flying monkey on the siblings' payroll. And so I realized that I couldn't do anything about it, right? I wasn't in a confrontational mood, although now I would have. Now, after having matured and seen all of this stuff just repeat itself, yeah, the universe was asking me, God was telling me, just open your mouth and go there and confront these people that are spreading lies. But I decided not to. I guess I was too afraid to do that. And so, anyway, all of a sudden that night or the next day, his dog became very ill and they had to put him to sleep. And so I was thinking, wow, I bet this guy doesn't realize that perhaps his behavior had created that situation where he would have to experience loss. And of course, no one wants to think that a pet suffers because of our stupidity. But in fact, they do, because they do suffer because we aren't awake enough to behave, to live in integrity, to have ethics and morals and be on the side of truth and live a conscience-driven life, So on the one hand, it just appears that was just a coincidence, but, we know that there are no coincidences. And so, Earth is a planet of free will, and we can choose, we have a responsibility for choosing and exercising that free will and acknowledging that there are large and small consequences for large and small crimes, right? And so, it's karma, it's physics, it's Jesus's message of you reap what you sow. And many of us here are at this point in the evolution of our little planet here, to show human beings their value and to take ownership of who they truly are as the divine expresses itself through them, right? We all get to choose our path and how we live this life. And it's for each and every one of us to feel empowered. And that makes total sense, doesn't it? I think it's just amazing. I wish I had, learned this years and years ago. I think it would have made such a difference, although I do believe that we actually have to experience many of the struggles so that we can, so that it softens us, and it gives us so much wisdom. And so we are to be grateful, for every person, place, and thing, and every event, situation, and circumstance in which we find ourselves, because there's a lesson. And yes, we absolutely do not condone what I certainly do not condone what my sibling and my son and my ex have done to me for all these years, and all the lies and the thieving and the cheating and the defaming and everything. It's gross. It's absolutely gross. But again, they have to live with themselves. And so I choose to see it as one miracle after another, because it's for us to behold the divine in everything around us. And so that divine essence just runs through everything that we see, hear, smell, touch, feel, And so divinity is at the core of our very being. And as we become more of who we really are, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I know many of us have heard that saying ad nauseum, but when we think about it, really, we are just spirit. And this is our clothing. And truly, this is my clothing. But our physical bodies are they're vessels for our energy. And so when we decide to take that off and put on another outfit, we have different life experiences. And so when we each get in touch with the real, with the real Maria. I get in touch with the real Maria. And it's true for you too. You can become more of who you really are. And the truth of you is encoded in every cell of your being. And by living your authentic self, then you're being true to you. And so without any fear or guilt or people pleasing, because people pleasing is just such BS. And so we can become strong and empowered and grateful. And so we can forgive ourselves and love ourselves. And then we can forgive and love everyone else. And so, again, I always talk about I want a life of smiles, laughter, and giggles. Yeah, and some dark chocolate. Sounds good to me. And so anyway, be so kind as to like, share, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I'd like this to be an interactive, actually, channel where we can all connect and we can all, talk. And so anyway, I will see you on number 31, where we can continue this most magical journey of forgiveness to love. And I love you. Bye. See you soon.